I now call to order the regular session of the Lake Havasu Unified School District on Thursday, August 14, 2025. Roll call, please.
Michael Curran?
Here.
Evelyn Tinsley?
Here.
Lisa Long?
Here.
Matthew Houston?
Here. Here. We will now have a moment of silent prayer and private reflection. Amen. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's awesome. All right. Welcome. Thank you for attending tonight. Our first item of business, item 2.1, student achievement. Ms. Olson, welcome.
All right. President Rose, governing board members, Superintendent Stone, and guests. Tonight, we have the distinct honor of recognizing a remarkable group of students, those who achieved a perfect score on the AASA, the ACT Aspire, or the ACT. Woo! Earning a perfect score is no small feat. It represents not only exceptional academic ability, but also perseverance, focus, and a deep commitment to learning. These students stand out, but none of them got here alone. First, we want to acknowledge the families behind each student. Their encouragement, routines, and support at home make a powerful difference, and we're grateful for their partnership in learning. We'd also like to extend our appreciation to the teachers who have supported these students in the last school year and the teachers who taught these students every year prior. Student success is built through the dedication of many teachers over time. All right, so let's get started. Please join me in celebrating these extraordinary students. We're going to call them up one group at a time along with their teachers. So students and teachers, when I call your name, please come up to get your certificate. And families, let's get those cameras ready, shall we? All right. All right, the first group of students, these third graders, now fourth graders, all earned a perfect score on the math portion of the AASA. Hunter Gordon and Mrs. Morgan. Isabella Molenrich and Ms. Godsey. Grayson Chavez and Miss Zampona. Isabel Franco from Miss Zampona's class. And Marshall Godson from Miss Zampona's class. Rehan Premaratne from Miss Zampona's class. Savannah Teixeira from Miss Alor's class. All right, parents, grab those photos. Here comes Savannah. Congratulations. All right, congratulations, fourth graders. Thank you so much. All right. All right, now please welcome the students who earned a perfect score on the math portion from the fourth grade AASA. These are now fifth graders. Pablo Rodriguez from Mrs. Garcia's class. Ryder McFarland from Mrs. Garcia's class. Connor Hammett, Mrs. Suda's class. Kennedy Burns, Mrs. Heckle's class. From Mrs. Nigg's class, we have Asher Baird and Jesse Moran. From Mrs. Kane's class, Charlie Berry. From Mrs. Luther's class, Jace Zizeldi and Jose Padilla Ramirez. All right, let's give these students another round of applause, please. Congratulations. All right. Thank you so much. Have a seat. All right. These former 5th grade students, now 6th grade students, earned a perfect score on the math portion of the AASA. From Mrs. Bargos's class, Andrea Butke, Gunnar Nelson, from Mrs. Dupoit's class, Jace Mamerit, all right, from Miss McClintock's class, I believe, Angel Uriel Hernandez Bustamante. From Mr. Harrison's class, Lily Leiter. Congratulations. And from Miss Callan's class, Eli Levis and Hannah Vu. Come on up. Mr. Callan's class. Please give these students one more round of applause. Parents, grab those photos. There you go. All right, congratulations. All right, now we're moving to the big kids. All right. Please help me congratulate these students who ranked in the 99th or 100th percentile on the ACT Aspire. Annabelle Howard, Shelby Morgan, Ava Blower, okay. Here we go. Devin Brislin, Dominic Bailey, Emma Mangrave, Zoe Kimball, Grace Jackson, Scott Kingery, and Logan Jackson. All right. Congratulations. Amazing job. All right. Thank you so much. You guys can have a seat. Congratulations. All right. 2 more groups. All right. These students earned a score in the 99 or 100th state percentile for the 24-25 ACT. Michael Washington. And Tristan Lyons. Okay, parents, get your photos. Smile, gentlemen. All right. Congratulations. Congratulations. And finally, please help me congratulate the students who scored in the 99 or 100th U.S. percentile on the 24-25 ACT. There you go. All right. Colin Miller. Caleb Stilson. John Bergman. Reese Ford. He's fighting his way through the crowd. Bridget McCabe. Casey O'Brien. Angelina Rybicki. Aubrey Vessels. Elise Kwan. Ella Skinner. Xavier Smith. Ethan Donner. Athena Conway. And Wyatt Martin. Congratulations. Please give one more round of applause to all of these amazing students, their teachers, and their families. And finally, thank you to Mrs. Jamie Tuneman for compiling this data to help us celebrate all of these students. Thank you. Congratulations. All right, thank you.
All right, we'll give you a moment if you'd like to exit, if you're not wanting to stay for the rest of the meeting. Invigorating.
I would like to give it to you.
If you guys know what's up there, like the most.
Yeah, that's game period. Serious. Just say this is visible to maintain current distance.
Fred,
And then we also need to yeah, we're gonna. So that's something that whistles. Yeah. So we'll give her out. Okay. All right. I think we're good to continue or give it a continue.
Is the thing that asks
All right. Item 2.2, student achievement.
I would like to invite up Mrs. Becker and Mrs. Burke, please.
Go stand up there. Oh, we're going to keep this celebration going, hopefully. Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Dr. Stone. It is with great pride and admiration that I stand before you today to recognize an exceptional CTE teacher, Mrs. Michelle Burke.
Yeah.
Michelle is someone who has not only made a profound impact on her students at Lake Havasu High School, but who has earned national recognition for her incredible work in the field of computer science education. This summer, she was selected as one of eight in the entire nation to receive the Computer Science Teaching Excellence Award, a prestigious honor that highlights her dedication, her innovation, and commitment to student success in software development and beyond. But let me be clear, this honor did not just happen by accident. I've known Michelle a long time, but I'm so happy for you. I might get a little emotional. This is a result of tireless effort, an unshakable passion for teaching, and a relentless drive to provide her students with real-world skills that will take them far into their future. She has built a program where students not only learn to code and problem solve, they thrive under her. Under her guidance, students have the opportunity to earn industry certifications that are nationally recognized, like ITS computational thinking, network security, Python, and networking. And these credentials open doors for future careers in tech and out in our forward world. But she doesn't stop at the classroom door. She goes the extra mile to connect students with real-world experience through our career exploration internship program. She helps them gain valuable hands-on skills by working with local business and industry partners. And her dedication is evident in everything that she does. Students feel seen. Students feel supported. They feel challenged. And they are able to rise to their potential. We are so very fortunate to have Michelle as part of our LHHS CTE team. So please join me in congratulating Michelle Burke on this well-deserved honor. We are proud of you. We are inspired by you, and we are grateful for everything that you do. Thank you all. Sure, that would be.
All right, now item 2.3, Lake Havasu City Education Association. Please welcome Ms. Carol Nowakowski. And as she comes this evening, I would like you all to help congratulate Ms. Nowakowski on her recent new position as Dean of Students at Thunderbolt Middle School.
Michelle, I get to say I knew you when. Long time ago. When she started the district, she started next door to me. So congratulations, Michelle. But there's a couple other people that can say know you longer. Those Zimatels. So, good evening, President Rose, members of the board, Dr. Stone, staff, students, community. So on July 24th, the association was able to receive or serve lunch to our new teachers at the new teacher luncheon, at new teacher orientation. What I want to say is it's always a pleasure to do that. In the past, we've had the opportunity of serving 40, 50, even more new teachers. And this year we served 25. And 25 is exciting, but I want to thank you because I think it's because of you we had a lot of retention and we didn't have a lot of turnover this year. So with that, we're excited for our new teachers and working with them, but we are also thankful that we had 25 and and most of us, I think, have full staffs at our sites. The other piece, which is as of yesterday, some of you may have heard that there was a landmark victory. A judge ruled that the Arizona system of funding of school facilities is unconstitutional, and because it fails to meet the minimum standards that our students and schools deserve. AEA was a huge part of that lawsuit. It's been 8 years in the making, a long time. So we are excited, word for word from the judge, after carefully and thoroughly reviewing the record and considering the parties' arguments. The court concludes that the current public school capital finance system does not meet the constitutional minimum standards established by the Arizona Supreme Court. And in this 114-page ruling, he detailed exactly where lawmakers have fallen short, detailing leaking roofs, schools without needed security, not enough computers, and even schools with carbon dioxide levels that exceed safety standards. We've been fighting for a long time. We know that this probably will go into appeals, but this is a big win for us. So thank you.
All right. At this time, item 3.1, call to the public.
Which one?
Maybe
Yes.
So am I supposed to address my concerns I have as a new parent?
That's okay. I recognize you too from school. Okay, concerns. I have 2 kids. I have twins. I have one in Starline. Love that school. Jamaica, I have one. He has special needs. And that school too. I like that school too. I have some things to say about it. Special needs programs. There's only in 2 schools. Those 2 schools need to own those special needs programs. That sensory room in Jamaica, unacceptable. Just looks like a closet in there with things shoved in there. There needs to be gated off areas. There need to be certain areas for just special needs kids. There's funding for them. We need to use that funding. They get more than normal kids. I understand this. Other concern. There's lots on special needs, but other concerns. At Jamaica, I noticed that no playground time in the AM when you drop off kids. You go directly to your classroom and stand like little soldiers. They don't get time to go socialize with their friends and be kids and play and get their energy out. 2 schools allow that. That would be Starline and Oregon, thank you. Yeah, and those are really exceptional places, and all the teachers want to go there. You ask yourself why. They have great principals. Yeah. Yes, they do. That's why they want to go there.
So we need to actually make incentives for those teachers that want to be great teachers. Give them bonuses. I don't know. Top 5 teachers, you get $200 bonus or something that makes them incentives. Some incentive for somebody to go out there and make a difference. And hours. Why do teachers not have set hours? Why is that? What times is school open? 8 to 2:30. That is not their set time. When I go to work, when I did work, right now I'm not out home mind, but when I went to work, I had set time. I was there before the public was there. I got everything all ready. I was a service advisor. I'd make sure everything was all ready. Everything was all open. I had my whole day planned out. I got all my stuff all ready for the day. I showed up early. They made sure I showed up early. If I didn't show up early and have everything ready, I didn't make my money. So we need to make sure we have set hours for our teachers. I'm sorry. And what else is there? I think that's enough for now. I'm only a week and a half in. So let's get this ball going. Let's go in the right directions. We want our kids to want to go to school. That's a big thing.
Yeah.
So if they don't want to go to school and we don't have fun and we're not there to go socialize those first minutes to get them out of that bed, you want to go make that recess time? Got to get out of bed. Come on. As a mom, I don't know if you guys all forgot being kids. You want to go, you want to go play, you want to go make friends. You want to go and be out there. And right now, they're just little soldiers going to school and lining up. And I called around, and the general census was, there's not enough teachers to watch the kids. Well, then set their time. There's enough teachers to teach. There's enough teachers to watch the kids on the playground. What are the kids were too rowdy? Oh, give me a break. You're a teacher. You're used to rowdy kids. They come in rowdy off of the playgrounds all the time. What do? You settle them down. Come on. Let's do it. Let's make this place great. Okay? That was it.
Thank you.
If you could, your concerns for special ed, if you could email the board in detail the things that, some of what you spoke about tonight, but the things you were not able to speak about.
Calling the school board, I'm talking to the special needs director this evening, we're not talking to everyone.
If you could just email the board, that way we all get it and we can work on that together. If we, after the meeting, if we can make sure she's provided this. Okay. Thank you so much.
That needs to be handled. Especially if there's 2 schools that only provide special needs and those special needs kids.
Special needs are actually pretty good. Sorry, I'm not sure.
I know they're
Okay,
good.
all right.
Oh, I know. Elijah Afton.
What?
Elijah Afton.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah, no problem. It's my first time. Did you get better?
Hello, my name is Elijah Aston. I am a junior at Lake Havasu High School and president of the junior class. Some of you may know that class rankings are not an option available to students at Lake Havasu High School. I have been looking into colleges, and it seems that the unavailability of class ranks is increasing the difficulty of applying for colleges and academic scholarships. Some exclusive schools and scholarships only accept those who are in the higher ranks, and they cannot see that with our students. Counselors are not permitted to tell students their ranking despite having access to it. I have found that the students who truly care about their class ranking are the students who are already high achieving. I propose that we allow students to get their rankings if they directly ask their counselors, eliminating the comparison through rankings on transcripts. We are promoting self-improvement while not pitting students against each other. I have spoke to many high-achieving students, and this is something that we would all like to have made available. Thank you.
Consent agenda item 4.1. I'll need a motion to approve in a second.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I second.
Michael Kern?
Yes.
Evelyn Tinsley?
Yes.
Lisa Roman?
Yes.
Matthew Houston?
Yes.
Peter Hearn?
Yes. All right. Item 5.1, student achievement. At this time, our principals will present their school level data and corresponding school year goals and action plans. Ms. Olson.
President Rose, members of the governing board, Superintendent Stone. In July, I shared an overview of our district's state assessment proficiency results. Tonight, I would like to provide a brief update on the action steps the student achievement team has taken over the last month. This year, our work will focus on 2 focal points. What is being taught? Align curriculum, instruction, and assessment to the Arizona state standards using the PLC model. Number 2, how is it being taught? Define, clarify, model, and monitor effective elements of direct instruction. To strengthen what is being taught, we are supporting teachers in aligning our district-adopted curriculum to the rigor of the Arizona standards. Our teachers do not need another program or resource to learn. They need space, time, and support to plan intentionally and collaboratively. The student achievement coaches restructured all 11 new teacher seminars to revolve around planning standards-based instruction, observing and providing feedback on the standards-based instruction, and analyzing student work. The student achievement coaches restructured all 6 district PLC meetings, so every grade level will engage in deconstructing standards, planning standards-based lessons, creating common standards-based assessments, reflecting on assessment data, and determining next steps. As a matter of fact, district PLC leads were onboarded earlier today. To support how it is being taught, the student achievement team has identified 8 essential elements of instruction that research has shown positively impact student achievement and that are effective across all subjects and all grade levels. For example, communicating learning objectives, ensuring student engagement, using formative assessments, providing specific feedback. Our teachers deserve ongoing opportunities to refine their craft, work with a shared set of universal instructional expectations, and receive timely explanations and feedback on these elements. By focusing on instruction, we are putting first things first. Each month, the Student Achievement Team will create and share the professional development, an observation tool, and a one-page reference guide for teachers on that month's targeted element of instruction. At our first administrative team meeting, we provided an overview of the 8 essential elements of instruction, along with professional development and resources on crafting effective learning objectives. It is our expectation that principals facilitate the monthly professional development at their site-based meetings. The Student Achievement Team will then visit each site and conduct classroom observations alongside principals. During that same administrative team meeting, we held a 3-hour data session where principals disaggregated site-level results and began developing site-specific goals. We challenged each school to set bold, ambitious targets, not minimal gains, paired with meaningful action steps that reflect the urgency and importance of ensuring every student's success. Over the past 3 weeks, I've partnered with principals providing feedback, suggestions, and reflective questions to help refine their goals and action plans. Tonight, each principal will present their site-specific proficiency rate, a SMART goal, and the specific action steps they will take to improve student outcomes. So without further ado, I will pass the spotlight to Mrs. Mersing.
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen of the board. I'm Mrs. Mersing, principal of Smoke Tree. Okay, what can I see? Okay, so here are our site level proficiency goals. We have just to kind of summarize this, a 42% proficiency in English language arts and the 42% proficiency in math this year, total school-wide. So that information will lead us to my goal. So our goal is that Smoke Tree will increase the number of 3rd through 6th grade students who demonstrate ELA proficiency by 8% as measured by total school proficiency growth from the 25 testing cycle to the 26 testing cycle. We also have a goal to do the same thing in math. But I will talk about our action steps for English language arts because we were asked to present one goal. So one of our action steps is to work on backwards lesson planning design. Our curriculum is a wonderful content-rich curriculum, but it wasn't designed aligned to the Arizona state standards. So we want our teachers, now that they've gotten really familiar with our curriculum, to be looking at the standards and then use their curriculum as that resource in which to teach the standards to the appropriate level of rigor. Also utilizing the content and vocabulary that is stated within the standards. We have weekly grade level planning to plan for our Tier 1 instruction, and our teachers are collaborating with our special education teachers at that time so that they can make sure they're providing the correct universal supports or the correct supports for those students and implementing that universal design of learning for other students who might need a little bit of help. We have weekly TLCs with 5th and 6th grade, and they are working with myself and an academic coach from the district office, where we are using those protocols that they will be using also in the 11 meetings that Mrs. Olson spoke of earlier, where they talk about what they're teaching, how they're teaching it to students, how they'll be assessing it, and what they will be doing for those students who need enrichment and what they will be doing for the students who don't learn it to bring them up. We have different PDs scheduled. One of them is a content writing PD. This last time we had a staff meeting, we focused on reading fluency and our Tier 2 burst lessons. The next PD is on content writing, and that uses Hockman's methods that I know our district has provided PD to our teachers before, and some keys to literacy strategies to help build sentence level proficiency and then expand upon those sentences and then into paragraphs and into essays. It's content writing. Professional development. I'm sorry.
It's on slideshow hers. There's a word that the student.
So we do provide after-school tutoring to students who are below level. So we use their mimic data, their state testing data, their classroom grades, their Dibbles benchmark data, and we determine which students, their minimal spaces, so which students will get into those tutoring spaces. We typically have enough spaces. We make room for students who need help. We also have homework club for 5th and 6th grade students where we don't have after-school tutoring, but they can get some assistance with their homework. And we also have a paraprofessional who goes into homework club and also pulls and does some small group learning just to build some literacy skills as well. So we've implemented fluency routines at each grade level in both reading and in math. So they do fact fluency, but again, it was just going to focus on reading, and they practice fluency routines. Last year, we had a goal to increase our reading fluency in students according to Dibbles benchmark data by 20%. We met that goal by 34%, and now our students are we want to continue to see our students progress and have more students who are able to read fluently, because we know that fluent reading is that precursor to then being able to comprehend the text they read. We will be implementing strategies from the Comprehension Connections book. So we're doing a book study on this, and this is also one of our professional developments where the teachers are each taking a chapter and then presenting to our staff. And what this is these are comprehension skills that our curriculum is really, it doesn't teach the teachers how to teach students how to make inferences. So it provides us with wonderful questions that expect students to be able to make inferences or answer questions about details in a text, but it doesn't provide teachers with the tools to teach that at a more concrete level. So for example, in math, we know best practices, we teach, concrete math and then into the pictorial and then to abstract. So this book actually provides us an opportunity to do some of that concrete teaching with skills such as inferencing with students before they're expected to apply it to text. We'll have monthly multi-tiered system of support meetings so that we can identify and target student needs. And this is where we meet monthly with each grade level. We talk about any students who we see concerns according to Dibbles or their classroom grades. We collaborate as a team to decide what kinds of interventions or supports can we put in place, what kinds of tools can we give to the family so that they can be helping their students at home. And then we meet each month to monitor the progress towards the progress they're making with those interventions. the idea is that students get the needed intervention and then they are benchmark and flourishing. And then some students might need a little bit more testing to help us determine if they might need an individualized education plan or something of that nature. So professional learning communities, I'm not sure why that's on there. Again, we talked about that already for 5th and 6th grade. But we also have what's called WIN time at our school, and we call that whatever I need is what WIN stands for. And that is our opportunity to teach intervention lessons to students who need a little bit of extra support, a third layer of intervention lessons to students who need a lot of extra support, and also to target some of the student needs with IXL, and sometimes those needs are filling in gaps. Sometimes those needs are pushing a student who is already on level or above level to, you know, even the next level a little further. And within those WIN time groups, we have students who are receiving Tier 2 services, we have students who are receiving Tier 3 services, and we also have groups specifically designed for enrichment for our on-level students and our above-level students, because we want them all to at least make a year's worth of growth as well. Do you have any questions?
I just have more. I'm interested to know why you picked 8%. You know, I see with your doubles, you would set a goal of 20%, and you beat that with 34%. I know Miss Olson had set bold goals.
Sure.
I was wondering why, 8% only gets us to a 50%. That's still half of our students.
So I'm happy to change that as well. I just noticed that.
Your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So we complete a comprehensive needs assessment each year with our site-based councils, and we completed that at the end of the school year last year. And with that comprehensive needs assessment, we create 3 school-wide goals, and our school-wide goal was to increase English language arts proficiency by 5%. So I changed it to 8% for this. Plus, I don't think that's too lofty of a goal. I think that we can meet that with all of the things that we have in place, our very committed staff, and we already made posters for all of their classrooms as well.
What would you think is a lofty percentage?
I mean, 50% is a lofty percentage. I would love to have all of our students at proficiency level.
Absolutely. But, 20%, get up to 60, or, 18, get up to 60% proficiency. Something that setting a little bit of a higher goal to attack a little harder.
Sure.
Fantastic. We'll get with Miss Olson on that as well.
Okay.
Fantastic.
My questions regard to professional development, and maybe this is more of a Miss Olson question. I just want to make sure the materials that each school site is using is approved by student achievement.
All materials are approved by student achievement. I did purchase them using Title I funds. They were all approved before I purchased them.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you.
You know what? I have a good question too. So I noticed with all the schools, they kind of have the same routine when it comes to tutoring. Is your guys is the same to where it's not individualized? It's just grouped together with common issues?
Well, they have an hour, so they do try to do half of it math skills and half of it reading. So I think they look at the student data and they try to target as much of the student needs as is common, and then try to fill in the blanks with maybe those IXL lessons where we could put a couple of students on those IXL lessons while they maybe pull a small group.
Okay, so tutoring's not homework.
No. Now in homework club in 5th and 6th grade, they are provided the assistance with their homework, but we also, like I said, have a paraprofessional who's pulling in and kind of pulling kids out of that to try to boost their reading proficiency level.
And I do have one more question. This is a question I will have probably for all of our principals is, we had, again, a large carry forward amount this moving into this year. And this board is going to be looking how can we invest that into our teachers, into our classrooms. We're going to be meeting about that. And I would like the opinion of every principal as they speak tonight, how you feel this board can help support our schools more to make sure our students are successful and become scholars.
So one thing I can think of off the top of my head are some more hands-on type of experience or real life experiences, such as field trips. It's really expensive to pay for buses to send our students on field trips. I know at Smoke Tree we are committed to trying to send all of our grade levels on at least one field trip. Some of them we have more than one scheduled throughout the year. But depending on the size of your cohort, you might need one bus or you might need 2 buses. And because a lot of our buses are used for athletics, we often have to hire a charter bus, which can cost anywhere from $6,000 to $8,000 per bus. So it would be helpful if we are able to get some students some of those hands-on experiences like the science museums and things like that. Also, like Arizona Science Center will do field trips on wheels, but it's also, you know, $5,000 to get them to be able to come up and provide a hands-on experience with all of the grade levels. So more of that hands-on stuff and those supplies for like STEM learning, I think would be helpful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I do have a question too, though.
Yes, ma'am.
So for the homework club, is that strictly voluntary on the student part, or can teachers make suggestions, like to the parents?
Yes, we try to work with the families because you know, our 5th and 6th graders don't always want to do homework clubs, so sometimes they're really encouraged and bribed to join homework club because it will help them. Sometimes they want to, but sometimes we have to work with the parents to really convince them that it's helpful for them. Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, Miss Williams, Nautilus.
Hey. Good evening, President Rose, board members, and Dr. Stone. When we take a look at our current proficiency levels at Nautilus, we see that in ELA, our scores range from 31% to 50%, and in math, we're seeing a range between 35% and 55%. While we recognize the effort behind these numbers, they are not where we want to be. Because of this, I've set a clear goal that we will increase student proficiency. Sorry, there's so many words up there, it's hard to see. We will increase student proficiency in both ELA and math by 10% in grades 3 through 6. To measure our progress, I will use the Arizona State assessment data. To support this goal, I've outlined several action steps. First one is instructional planning. We will purposefully and align with Arizona State standards. Teachers and grade level teams will use backwards design during weekly collaborative meetings and Thursdays staff common planning time. Ensuring our lessons are directly connected to our unit outcomes. Each lesson will be designed with the appropriate level of rigor to challenge students and deepen their understanding. Monthly professional development will focus on high impact instructional practices that have been shown to improve student achievement. Topics will include such things as writing clear learning goals, success criteria, increasing student engagement, explicit vocabulary instruction, and higher order questioning techniques. Progress will be closely monitored through monthly and quarterly data meetings. During these sessions, teachers will analyze benchmark data, mimic assessments, and common assessments to identify trends and student performance. In fact, this afternoon, our 4th, 5th, and 6th grade teams did just that, analyzed our DIBELS data. This analysis will guide instructional adjustments, help identify students in need of intervention and enrichment, and ensure that teaching practices remain responsive to all of our student needs. Targeted after-school tutoring will be offered twice a week for students identified as needing additional support. Tutoring sessions will focus on foundational skills in math and in ELA, with instructional targets determined by our benchmark data. And finally, our specialist teachers will play an intentional role in reinforcing core classroom learning. Our computer teacher will administer short DNA formative assessments each week, aligned to the standards taught the previous week in the homeroom classes. The teachers will analyze that data, and then they will make adjustments, corrections, or move on. Our librarian will read student readers or content-related text to provide repeated exposure to concepts and vocabulary that is being taught in the classroom. Our PE teacher is going to work with our English language learner students in short, focused sessions to strengthen their foundational skills. And our music teacher is pushing into our 3rd grade classrooms to practice fluency reading with individual students. Through these coordinated efforts, Nautilus will ensure that all students are equipped with the skills and confidence they need to meet and exceed grade level expectations. Thank you for your time. Don't feel any need to ask any questions.
So I see 10%. So you are far. I'll won't bite too hard at the end.
Okay.
It looks like 10%, maybe set like a standard across the board.
Yes. Initially, my goal was set where we looked at each individual student, and we looked at the students that were not at benchmark level. And we counted how many of those students were in each of those ranges. So my initial goal was we will move a certain amount of those students up to each level. And then we
decided, we went back and forth. I talked with student achievement team, and we decided on that goal of 10% for ELA and math across the board.
And maybe, Ms. Olson, that might be a bit just district wide. Is let's seek to improve this across the board at least 10%. Thank you. Sorry.
My question is,
Make it easy.
what can we do as a board to invest into our school sites to help improve student achievement in the classrooms?
So, just like Nina said, the big thing is field trips. A lot of our kids here in rural Arizona, they don't get to go out of our little area. Some are fortunate and they do, and others are not. So, investing in maybe some of those field trips where it's not so expensive, because we don't have the money to do that. The other thing is, in order to have, we know number one is our teachers. So if we have good, successful teachers that want to come to work every day, that have a passion for this district, we have to help build that passion, and that starts with building our cultures. I have found 2 conferences that I have been looking at and would like to take some staff members to, that fills their buckets, gets them energized, teaches them some new concepts, some new skills that they can bring back to their classroom, and I'd love to speak more with you guys on that at a later time.
Absolutely. Please bring those forward to us.
Thank you.
Ms. Olson or Dr. Stone. I think that's improving our teachers, keeping the retention, like Miss Norakowski said, keeping the retention, only having 25 instead of 60. That's what we're here to support, and so please bring those forward, and we can do that.
Thank you. The other thing is, because you had just mentioned that, special education teachers. We need to recruit and find, my special ed teacher has already been offered another job here in the district. Unfortunately, I could not let her go. I have to hold on to her until I can find a quality teacher. And I stated, I can't just let her go to put a fill-in that classroom. Those kids need the best teachers, and I know it's really hard to recruit special education teachers here. I think we're still short 3 in our district. So helping to recruit those teachers would be fabulous.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Ms. Williams. Anybody else? Questions? All right.
I like that regrouping for every single week. That's cool. And your music teacher?
Yes.
I've seen her interact with the kids. That's going to be super amazing for them.
So I am fortunate because I do have a smaller school. We have a smaller staff, but I have a smaller school. So I know that some of the bigger schools, their special teachers are back to back to back to back. Mine have a 20-minute in the morning section because we do a leader and me. And then they also have a short break because of schedules in the afternoon, each one of them. And so that's why I'm pulling them into the general education classrooms to help in that area. So, thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. Miss Sotner, Starline Elementary.
Yes. Lockender and it will
Does it like me? Maybe. Okay, lovely. Thank you. Good evening, President Rose, members of the governing board. My name is Jenny Sotner. I'm the principal of Starline Elementary School. Here tonight to talk a little bit about our proficiency levels from the AASA, just one data point in a slew of many that get considered every year when we're looking at student data and needs of our students. And to also share with you some of the goals that we've set and some of our action steps that we'll be taking to meet those goals. So when we look at our proficiency data, what we try to look for are patterns over time first. So to kind of get a historical look and feel for our school specifically, every school is very different based a lot on demographics and size, population. What we find is, and what you can see visibly here, is that our math scores traditionally have been higher than our ELA and reading. So we've done some things, changed our schedule and staffing to try to focus on literacy and reading and to bring those reading scores. We don't want our math scores to go down. What we'd like is to keep the rigor of our math and to increase our ELA to match that. The other kind of pattern that we notice is when we're looking at state data, we compare often to the average of the state. So what is happening in the state of Arizona, and how does our school compare to the education that every other child in Arizona is getting? And so, again, what we find is for ELA, where around 10% is the average, but it's between 8 and 18% that we score above the state in ELA, and then in math, between 5 and 27% that we score above the state in math. And that is really attributed to the team of teachers who are teaching, and to making some decisions about moving teachers whose maybe specialties are to teach those content areas to see a higher leverage of scores that look like that kind of growth. The one area that we noticed we did not outperform the state in was this cohort who are our current 5th graders. So they did make pretty significant growth. I would consider personally 10% growth over proficiency in 1 year is significant. Like for the state, that is considered significant growth. They did make that. Last year, it was not enough to push us past the state. So that kind of leads us in. Oh, and Miss Casmy would be so distraught if I just didn't also mention, just look at our beautiful AZ Sci scores, which she teaches our science for our 5th grade. So if you just wanted to peruse that for just a moment. Okay, now you may click. Yes, I know how to keep my people happy. Okay. So our SMART goal mirrors Nautilus's as well. That 10% is a sweet spot number. I will agree. It is challenging. That is not a walk in the park to increase growth by 10% for students who are not at proficiency. It is attainable. It is challenging. So this is why we chose that. And then it also, for especially that grade level, this is for our 3rd through 6th grade students. We did not want to make our goals so narrow as to focus explicitly on one cohort of students. So generally, this is what we're looking for. We're trying to meet or exceed that 10% growth for all of our students who are taking the AASA in both math and ELA. That would make us so happy. So that does not just occur. There are a lot of different pieces that go into creating that situation. So one of the first, I would say, just to kind of summarize, is the kind of support that we're providing for teachers and the structure that holds the support for them. So that is PLCs, and I will not use acronyms for you. It makes my husband crazy when I do that, but he uses them too from Place Run. But anyway, that's a side conversation. Professional learning communities. This is just time for teachers. This is time for them to plan together using the objectives, using our data and what we know about children to make sure that it's specific. You asked a great question, Evelyn, about how do we know that the instruction is being targeted to those students? Well, we need the time to plan and make that happen. Then after you implement instruction, there needs to be time to reflect. Was this effective? So you're looking at your assessments, formative or summative, and making sure that it had the impact you wanted. And if it didn't, then what changes are we making to address that? That is not a short process. So we completely redid our schedule several years ago to make sure that teachers have lots of time together and they have structured meetings each week. Tier 1 is instruction that every child gets in the classroom. That's what your traditional, like, I'm doing reading, I'm doing math. Everyone is getting access to that. And then we also want them to have time to really dig into, this is not working for all students. So for some students, they're successful and proficient with that, and others is not enough. That means they need a tier 2 level support. And for those students, do we know them and understand exactly what their needs are and then target our tier 2 instruction to meet them? And we get lots of support. I have a student success dean because of the size of my school, and she is incredibly supportive in this level work. Just like what Shannon was saying about knowing each kid and understanding their data. And then we also get support from our interventionist, from our student achievement coach. The support is ubiquitous. We really require it from many places in order to be successful. So supporting teachers first. Secondly, would be that target in tier 2. You can see down there, we are not teaching in a vacuum. We are teaching children who live at home, and we're in a partnership with families, and we're in a partnership with children. So this year with our Leader in Me initiative, we're asking students to make some goals for themselves. What kind of reader do you want to be? What are your goals? Do you know your data from last year? How are you going to make this increase, right? This is a team approach, and the same with families. So we're supporting families through, we have a lot of things, book study, site council, Leader in Me classes, like a slew of them, PTA, and how are we supporting families? Because they want what we want, which is for our children to be successful. I think that's all I have to say. I'm sorry I said so many words. More than you wanted, Christy. I'm so sorry. Okay, I think. Yeah.
All right. Any questions for Ms. Sotner from the board? All right. My question, Ms. Sotner, how do you feel the board can invest more into our school sites, into our classrooms?
Thank you for asking this question. This is my favorite question. And I would say of all the things that we could do, the most powerful, high leverage thing is to invest in the quality of our classroom teachers. That is what moves the needle. And this district is really built on teacher leadership. We are a national board certified school district. When I think of all the initiatives over time, the beautiful things that have been created and implemented as we go back in time, I've been here a long time and seen it. It's always an idea and a passion from somebody who is here. So that idea of supporting teacher learning through PD, professional development, or a conference, or honestly, field trips. It's field trip for children, and it's also a field trip for adults. So it's professionally enriching, and when you have that, you do a better job in your classroom for children. That's right. We like fresh and happy all the way around.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much.
All right, Havasu Pie. How are you? Miss Hammer.
Good evening, President Rose, members of the board, and Superintendent Stone. Our current state's proficiency scores for ELA are between 29% and 39%, math 20% to 32%, and I will plug science with 30%. I recognize that we have significant work to do to improve our proficiency for our amazing students, and our action steps are designed to address this urgent need. These steps support the goal of increasing the percentage of 3rd through 6th grade students scoring proficient or highly proficient on both ELA and math for the AASA by 25%. It's lofty. We need it. We will implement research-based engagement strategies in every classroom, meaning K through 6, not just our 3rd through 6th graders, and provide professional development to ensure all students are actively participating in their learning. Teachers will align instruction to Arizona standards through backwards planning, connecting daily lessons to unit outcomes and assessments, providing visible learning practices that we have already implemented school-wide, K through 6 again, with teachers posting and referencing their objectives and success criteria daily. Teachers will use data from common assessments, benchmarks, and AASA mimics to analyze progress during data meetings and PLCs, professional learning communities, and this will allow all teachers time to adjust instruction to meet student needs. This ongoing teach, analyze, reflect cycle will ensure consistent, high-quality instruction and targeted supports for our students.
Fantastic.
All right.
So,
Ms. Hammer, when you took Havasu Pie, you guys were already at that time, the school was already on target and improvement, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And how has it been coming in to make that adjustment since taking over and the implementation of change?
As soon as I walked in that door, I immediately got into classrooms to see what was going on in Havasu Pie. Made connections with families and students first and foremost.
And then I reached out to Dr. Stone and the student achievement team and said, how can I help make this school top notch? So when I walked in, we started going back to what does our data actually mean? A lot of times we can look at this, 29 to 30%, but back to my 25% growth or up in the proficiency, it went from looking at the school to grade level to then actually students and going to, I know these students can do these things. So that's why the goal was raised to 25% instead of lower. So we really did a lot of steps right there during our Thursday planning meetings, during common planning with the help of student achievement. We dove right into what are these lessons, what are the objectives, how do we show students what they are going to be doing and what they are learning throughout their lessons. So from the 5 weeks in, we started already applying that to our practice. And after that, I really noticed that we needed to move students through, not just sit and lecture. Our students are students who do need that hands-on experience. They need the language. They need to be able to speak of what they're learning and be able to provide that back. So that's what I've been working on every day.
I appreciate the bold goal. And Ms. Olson, I asked you to really help Ms. Hammer to achieve that goal. 30%. Those are tough percentages.
Absolutely.
I know you came into targeted improvement, so anything you need, please don't be afraid to approach the board, approach Ms. Olson. We're here to help you. We want to help you.
Thank you.
I'll take Dave's question. Where can we apply funds to help you?
I will always say the field trips is a big thing. The other part is we kind of talked about being able to support teachers. Well, some of that said after school tutoring. It is extremely difficult to actually find tutors that want to tutor for what they're paid. And I also want the best tutors tutoring my students as well. So trying to find that balance of what is the motivate.
Is the tutoring sessions at?
2:30 to 3:30, 2:45 to 3:45, twice a week.
And
part of the reason why
they're just hired tutors, those are teachers.
No, they're teachers from our school.
And so is tutoring an additional pay?
Correct. And the twice a week, it goes to on the third day, we like to run our clubs. So I'm really excited. It hasn't been presented to my site-based council, but we're going to also have a theater club this year, which then goes to my how can you still help? If I am a firm believer of the arts. I am not artistic, nor do I like to act or sing. You would be scared if I did any of those things. However, our students really either sometimes gravitate to that, and going back to I want to come to school. Those are some things I share, and our amazing art and music teacher was Smoke Tree. So those teachers rotate back. So we actually sometimes lose some of the instruction because they're packing, they're moving, and going back and forth. So if I could keep both of them all year long, and I'm sure Mrs. Mersing would agree with me, that that's something that would help us. That also gives extra planning time to our teachers, where the backwards design, it has to happen so you know exactly what the rigor has to be to meet the standard.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much. Any other questions from the board? All right. All right. Now moving on to our next school. Not during
we're going to keep this one
presentation, unfortunately.
Right here. The Howard.
All right. Jamaica Elementary School, Mr. Reedy. Welcome.
Well, thanks for having me back, President Rose and board members and Dr. Stone. It's been 21 years. So since I've had to present in front of Lake Havasu board. So it's awesome to be back. So I appreciate the opportunity. I am a very competitive individual. So I think that you're going to find the bold, it's a bold goal as well. So if you look at the data and if you compare it to the state in general, you can say, oh, well, if I go down line by line, well, we're at or above, in almost every category. But when I look at sixth grade, we're just at, in math. But I don't want to be there. I want to be well above that and where we were. What I like to look at, and if I could draw your attention to maybe looking at things a little bit differently at an angle from year to year, because sometimes you look at the data. So if we go up to third grade and we say, okay, 53% for ELA, and then that same group of kids is now 55%. So that's pretty decent. They went up a couple, and that's the same group of kids. But if I go to the next grade level and I'm looking at the data there, I'm seeing 62%, and that's great. We had 62% proficient. Same group of kids last year, 37%. That is painful to look at when you look at it that way. So those are the kinds of things that I look at. One of my old positions was data coordinator from my past district. So I look at little anomalies like that. So those are concerns that I have either for the test or that group of kids. And so those are things that you want to target. So we can go down the list and you can see grades that you want to target more than others. So anyways, without any further ado, I'll go into our goal. So basically, I could read it here. It's basically to move 25% of our kids in grades 3 through 6. So this is all our grades who scored minimally or proficiently. We're going to basically move the 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s. So we're looking at basically, when I look at numbers wise, 25% is a lot. But when I look at numbers of kids and I look at our population, that's really moving 7 to 8 kids from, and that seems manageable. And we do that. It's going to be tough though for every single grade level to do this, but it's a bold goal. Yeah. To make sure that this happens, for ELA and math. And if we can manage this, I'm probably going to go on a talk show somewhere because I said the scores are going to look fantastic, when you compare it to the state. So I would like to see if we could do that. Now I'm learning just like some of you are as far as what do we have available here in Lake Havasu, because I've been away for a while. So some of the things I know I've learned about, that we have these minute tests. So this is great. So this is great data that we can garner from our students, a couple times a year, so that we can tell where we're at and make adjustments within the classroom. Professional development, and I actually did change it because I had PD initially. I said, I'm just going to put, because I know I have to explain what that is. So basically, I would like professional development focused on science and reading, and you guys got a new program in Amplify that actually is research-based, and basically that's where it is. I don't know if, for those of you who don't know, I'm a big fan of this. The research really goes back to the 90s when our government actually put a lot of money forth for research for a couple of universities that we basically broke reading down into 5 different categories that we thought were important. So, that's basically, phonemic awareness, phonics, vocabulary, fluency, and comprehension. So that's the data that I want to see. Where are we falling back on? And we have a lot of tests, dibbles that gives us information in some of these areas. So we got done today. We just got, everybody has been tested. I think we're lacking one child who we need to get tested. But we have the information we need. So groups are going to be set, tomorrow, and hopefully next week we can get right into interventions that are targeted to these particular areas. Okay. And our schedule allows for that too, because we all have wind time at all the schools, and actually that's the same term we even used back east. So it's the same, but we want to target those interventions to all our levels, and I probably won't go into the different categories. We're talking about targeting groups that are in tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3, but tier 3 is basically, that's where I think the question you brought up earlier is the smaller groups. So those are the ones that we target when we have the information. We'll bring in those small groups that are actually going to be pulled out so they get the more individualized help. And there's time in the schedule, to make that happen. So anyways, one of my biggest things is family engagement too. I want community involved. So I would like to encourage, parents to get involved with the school. Of course, I honestly, I am used to getting parents maybe not so, maybe angry at times, because I push for kids to be at school. And I also look at some of the data, and we have some of our kids that have missed quite a few days of school. If you're not here, you can't learn. So they need to be in school. So, we all know through COVID, there's been a lot of, it's been a lot of change in our society since we keep our kids home. But the more we can keep our kids, coming in, and we're not just holding them home because they're feeling like a mental health day today. So we get a lot of that. And I'm just like, that's not what my father would do. So you're going to school. So if they're there, they can learn. So you expect phone calls, and I've been making phone calls, individually on other things, but they haven't been negative. I think they've been mostly positive for the families, and that's my goal, is to build relationships, with my community. And anyways, reading beyond school day. I've always been a big proponent of, and I don't know if I should throw this in because I know that you guys got rid of the program, but I want to figure out a way to I know it's AR, but I'm a big supporter of that program. I'll just say it.
You're not the only person who brought that up. There's been many people.
I'll be honest, when I left here, I brought that program to my school in New York. It's still there. And what I build around that as the principal is I build a program where I can identify where kids' needs are, and I can build a relationship with my community so that I'm getting them to read outside of school, where I have my RSVP, which that was my retired seniors and volunteer program. They would come in to read with my kids, but outside of school, I would incentive programs work. Some people don't like them, but I use my community for that. Where I came from was Watkins Glen. It was a race NASCAR weekend. That group, we had a partnership. In Arizona, in Lake Havasu, we have a lot of great businesses here that we could form partnerships with, and I would get incentive stuff to make sure that our kids get excited about reading. And I give it research. I can give you letters from parents that have said, my kid hated reading, but my kid loves racing dirt bikes. My kid loves race cars. My kid loves this. So if you get a connection between reading and what they love, then they're going to want to participate and they're going to want to read. So like I said, I'm very competitive, and I want to get parents on board with let's get these kids reading after school. If you don't believe that education is important, you're letting your kids down by not promoting reading at home. So I would hope that every parent is reading at least 20 minutes every day when you go to bed. Just set that example for your kids, and your kids will grow up to be great readers. And I have 2 wonderful kids that are now adults that are great readers because of my wife, who was a great reading teacher. So they didn't have a choice in the matter. But the point is, they saw her doing something great, and it just became part of their normal routine. So today it's a normal routine for them to read and choose that over watching a video game.
So just so you know, I am touching base on that a little bit, and I have been asking around. It's been one of those things where it's like a love, and it's also like it didn't work out for some.
Right. It depends what you do with it.
But
You're right.
I'm trying to come up with a list, so we're going to work on that between like back in the day we used to have Book It, you know what I mean?
Yep.
For
Book It's another one. There's a lot of programs you can use. The ones I'll do them because they do promote it. But these for Pizza Hut, they do that one there, and we have a lot of them that we can develop, and we're going to do that. But the only thing is that they're always on the honor system. It's like, oh yeah, my kid read 20 minutes today, or they read this list of books today, and we'll send them in, and that's great, and we'll make that work. But I like programs where I can actually see data that comes into me that I could actually say, these are the top 2 readers for the week, and I'm going to bring them to my office, and I'm going to congratulate them, make a big deal about it on the announcements, give them a prize, because I use my businesses to help me support some of those prizes. They could be autographed T-shirts from your favorite NASCAR driver, or whatever you have in your community that you use. That kids love. I had little race box cars. Those were some of the awards, but they were purchased not by the school. They were purchased by the community, by actually Watkins Glen International, where I was. That's where I was for 20 years. So anyways, I would love to use the community more and utilize any program I can to promote reading outside of the school day to help our kids. I was also an athletic director. I have a great we're a state championship team, and it didn't happen because we only practiced after school. It happened because we practiced on weekends, and we practiced, all summer long, and we had a goal in mind, and we met that goal. Also, this is new to us. I guess we have actually a paid MTSS coordinator. So I guess utilizing the funds to making sure that time is valuable. That's one of the last items on here, and I'm going to be watching that and seeing how that's working. But I think it's great to have somebody that's going to be focused at our meetings to go over the Dibbles data, and I believe the person that we have is actually going to be a great asset because I can see already she's a great teacher. I've been in and out of the classrooms every day. I'm in somebody's classroom, and I told the teachers to know that I'm in and out of your classrooms every single day. I want you to get comfortable with me coming in and knowing that I'm just going to be there at any given time. But I see a lot of good stuff happening. I have great teachers here. So I hope that we can do great things for our kids.
Yeah, fantastic. That 25% goal, I like that.
Okay.
And, I just want to ensure you're working with Miss Olson, hitting those objectives, getting those PLCs, getting, aligned to the curriculum, to the standards. And I like that. It's just 6 kids, 7 kids. It's a small percentage. Attack it, and we can do that. So I like the goal. Miss Olson, we're gonna do this.
Yeah.
So I do have a question. And I love your idea of partnering with families. And I know in speaking with a lot of our teachers, a lot of our administrators, that sometimes can be a challenge.
It can be.
So how do you see building that bridge between teachers and parents?
I like bringing in fun events. I mean, I try to do anything I can. I like to do a survey of all the parents. What would interest your kids? What interests you? But there is a lot of STEM activities that you can do. I can give examples of things that I've done over the years, where I bring in the nutty scientist or, they do cost money for those things. But then you have them do a presentation in school, but I also hired them to stay afterwards, and we would have the parents get involved to see what they can do, because actually the parents can learn from these artists. Another program that I had, and that was an artist in residence program. Great program. It was a grant funded thing that we had written a grant for, but we ended up getting a lot of artists for every single grade level that worked it worked in our ELA social studies curriculum. And what it did was it brought stuff to life for kids. So it was hands-on stuff where you're actually bringing in an artist that comes in, let's say you're in 4th grade because you're learning about the state as an example, but you bring in an artist that actually was one of the pioneers that came here. And then he has all the gear and he's dressed up like one of the, indigenous individuals, and gives you a sense of what it was like to live here back in the 1800s, at the turn of the century. So to get kids excited about doing these hands-on things, doing anything with science and bringing in some of these artists and doing them after school. And one of my goals is, I'm trying to figure out funding for this, of course, but if I could do something once a month where I can get families to come into the school after school and to get involved, that would be fantastic. But those things cost money. So, yes.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oro Grande Classical Academy.
Good evening, President Rose, Governing Board, and Superintendent Dr. Stone. I'm Chris Barton, the Oro Grande Principal. If you go ahead and you take a look at our slides, particularly we'll start out with our ELA highlights that our 3rd grade last year lagged significantly behind our district and our state. We certainly do see that is an area in need of improvement. Our 4th grade in ELA certainly catches up with where the state and our district currently is at. And then we see our 5th grade where they're probably going to need some additional support because they did go ahead and take a slight dip from where they were, according if you look at previously, as well as with our current district and state scores. And then our 6th grade last year actually led all of our groups in the ELA. So when you're just looking at that alone in itself, that the ELA certainly does show growth with our grades 4 through 6, but we really struggle with our 3rd grade. If you look at our math highlights, again, our 3rd grade is dipping there. It's very low. And then our 4th grade jumps ahead, 5th grade remains strong in math, and our 6th grade completely goes ahead and excels with major outperformance by our state as well as our district. In regards to our science, we certainly see that we did have some growth from last year, from the previous year. However, we do feel that is also another area that we could certainly have some need for improvement, as science does certainly build in the reading and the math concepts. So we are actually going to be meeting with our 3rd and 4th grade teachers to kind of help prepare those scholars so that when they start to take that 5th grade test, we continue to keep building on those science standards because they are very repetitive. How can we go ahead and make those hands-on, make science a little bit more fun, help them remember those important facts? If you go ahead then and look at our goal, our Oro Grande will increase the number of 3rd and 6th graders and demonstrate ELA and math proficiency by 10%, as measured by the total school proficiency growth from fiscal year 25 to fiscal year 26 based on our AASA testing scores. We recently had a staff meeting a few weeks ago. I wanted my entire staff to go ahead and be able to look at the data. And this was not just our teachers that are currently teaching 3rd through 6th. This was our teachers from actually preschool all the way through 6th grade, our specials teachers, our counselor. They were all involved in the actual discussion. We believe that you have to have teacher buy-in if we're going to go ahead and want to see success and improvement in our proficiency. Everybody should be on board. So, with that being said, our first action step was that we wanted to improve our academic proficiency. State standards need to align to our targeted learning objectives, both in ELA and math. What we actually did as a staff was we went ahead and in the state test scores, when you go ahead and break the data down, you can actually look at the cluster categories where we did not perhaps get all the points that we actually needed. And in our ELA, we were able to go ahead and identify that our scholars are missing key details and central ideas, something very important. So we decided that with that, the tiered interventions implemented as followed. We would go ahead and with our Tier 2 classes, have our M-class lessons. Our Tier 3 would have the 95% group lessons, the U-Fly, and the additional 95% intervention for our special education needs as well. We would like to have targeted small group instruction that is data-driven. That includes our IXL, our DNA lessons for differentiated support, along with enrichment opportunities for the scholars who are performing above grade level. We want to keep them excited, engaged. Our math focus, when we looked at where that category cluster was, we realized that it was in number of operations and fractions. So with that being said, during the school day, we do actually have allotted math intervention time for our teachers to incorporate using manipulatives to apply mathematical concepts, again, to real-world scenarios. That's that question, why? Why do I need to know this? If you talk to any as a previous teacher, why do we need to know this? We have to explain the why to them. Math's very important, as we all know. So instruction was certainly going to be also informed by the DNA and our IXL data to go ahead and ensure that we are having targeted, effective intervention. So we will go ahead and pick the lessons that where those scholars are showing the most common achievement gaps is what we will actually be doing with that. We will also have targeted after-school tutoring for scholars who are on the bubble, the ones that we could go ahead and increase to their proficiency, or more importantly, if they're still in the bubble, make sure that we maintain that proficiency. We don't want them to go backwards, is what we don't want to do. And that will be an invite, is what it actually will be. We will be using the data, of course, from our previous AAS, their test scores, as well as progress benchmarking, monitoring, where we are going to go ahead and use the 95% multi-syllable routine cards for reading as part of our after-school program and our Dimensions math curriculum. These actually align with the Tier 1 curriculum, giving our scholars a reteach opportunity along with that extra practice is what we will be doing. We also want to go ahead and prepare our scholars for testing, give them the test-taking strategies that we need. When we were actually looking at the data, we did find that we had scholars that were unscorable because they did not either complete their writing part of their ELA, which then in return actually does affect your actual ELA test scores. So with that, we want to go ahead throughout the entire school year, go ahead and practice those test-taking strategies when we are doing benchmark monitoring, practice tests, even when they're doing their actual unit tests, whatever it may be. Showing them how to actually, when they're reading a passage, go ahead and take those notes so that they can go ahead and go back, read the passage, look at the questions, reread the passage again, build that reading stamina. As we know, those passages probably are very long on the state test. And today, kids don't like to read. They would prefer to actually be on their phones watching TikTok videos. So we have to go ahead and build that reading stamina among them. Along with that, getting them to practice writing. What does a paragraph look like, punctuation, and so forth. Same holds true with math. Did you work out the math problem? Are there other ways that we can go ahead and check for our answer? Giving them those additional tools throughout the entire school year so that we can go ahead and prepare our scholars for test-taking time in hopes that they have that confidence and that they will actually be able to do better. We also want to make sure that we have meaningful and purposeful weekly planning meetings to review the curriculum, review the pacing guides, check for the understanding, and increase the structural engagement strategies by incorporating and encouraging collaborative classroom discussions such as Thoracic Circle, which is kind of part of the Classical Academy. Part of our weekly meetings is also to know our scholars' data. Are there scholars of concern that we should go ahead and look at? So we want to go ahead and do those data dives based off of the 10 days of progress monitoring, review any summative assessments that we have, and of course, plan for the future instruction to go ahead and close those academic gaps. Teachers at our school site, when we are actually having our staff meetings, and we certainly are very thankful that we do have those opportunities about twice a month to go ahead and meet as a staff as a whole. I would like to go ahead and have our teachers that are doing something extraordinary in their classrooms be able to go ahead and share, and we model what exactly that teaching strategy is going to go ahead and look like. We have a few new teachers on staff. We've also done some grade shifts with making sure that we have a veteran teacher for every single grade level if we were having to bring in a new teacher. We also still have some other relative new teachers that are only year 2 here at Oro Grande as well. The other thing that we've also implemented this year that's a little bit new is that not only is our 6th grade on rotation with their math and science, and then of course our reading and social studies, our 5th grade is also doing the exact same rotation. So we're able to go ahead and look at our 5th and 6th grade teachers and let them teach the content areas that is their craft, what they know best, what are they the most excited about, and they can also plan a little bit better, dive into that data, and look at what it is that they need to go ahead and bring into the classroom to go ahead and prepare for small group instruction, differentiated instruction, and so on. And of course, academic family nights, I feel, are very important. They always have been in my previous experiences as a school administrator, where family nights can actually improve the student agency, where the scholars can actually share what they have learned. They're very excited. They're very proud of their work. But in the other flip side of the coin, we want to go ahead and be able to provide parents with additional curriculum resources that they could go ahead and use at home by our teachers that could go ahead and offer that support in that academic content areas, such as it could be math facts, it could be something reading at home. And we want to make sure that we're getting our families to go ahead and work in collaboration to go ahead and create that common goal that we actually want to go ahead and get them excited about school in itself as a whole. Oro Grande recognizes that we do certainly have the need for increase of proficiency levels across all our content areas and our grade levels during this current school year. With the restructuring of our staff, the support of our strong mentor teachers, and the dedication of our intervention and resource teams, we certainly are equipped, we feel, and that we're ready to go ahead and meet the common goal, which is actually scholar growth and academic excellence for all. Any questions?
Well, I was going to bring this up at the end, but you hit on it, which I appreciate, is test-taking strategies. This country now has licensings for everything, nurses, plumbers, attorneys, doctors. There is going to be a test in these children's future which they have to pass. And, Ms. Olson, I was going to suggest this at the end, but I would like to implement or see where we can fit in a course or a lesson or a day on test-taking strategies all the way through. Having the ability to take a test is one of the greatest skills our kids can have going forward in education. You will be required to take tests. And, a lot of people say that it's not all about test taking to learn. Well, at the end of the day, when you got to show up to show what you know, it's a test. And so I would like to strengthen our test taking strategies across the board. So thank you for hitting on that. And let's hit that 10% goal.
Yeah, and I had the question of how much is that assessment data? How much of it is the test taking skills versus the subject comprehension? The actual subject comprehension of the students. Just basically, I didn't know if there's a measure for that, or. Because it felt like the instructors, the teachers, realize that the students actually are understand the material, but they're just poor at taking the tests.
Exactly. They certainly could have that anxiety And the other thing that we're going to be incorporating at Oro Grande is then test taking days, doing test pep assemblies in the morning. We want to make sure that we get them excited, sort of do a pep assembly, I guess is kind of what you call it in the gym, if I can. If we have the right amount of laptops and the right internet bandwidth, I'd like to have actually our 3rd through 6th grade take their tests all in the same day if I can, so that we can create that excitement. And we also want our teachers to be jazzed about the excitement, because if they're excited, they will be excited. They will do well for their teachers with that. And
is that a significant weighting on the results? I mean, as far as just not being able to take the test with skills?
Well, my previous school, we actually taught the test taking strategies. It was basically built into their content areas. Like, you couldn't just go ahead and write a 5-paragraph essay. We actually walked our scholars through how do you actually go ahead and come up with your topic sentence. You read the passage, now you got to write the essay, you have to do your research. What are going to be those topics, the supporting evidence? They actually had to create an outline. And they actually learned this from all the variety of essays, whether they're writing argument, persuasive, compare, contrast, so that when it came to actual test-taking day, they knew what was expected of them. They had to go ahead on the writing portion of the state test, go ahead and write out after they read the passage, the actual outline based on whatever that essay was that they are being asked for on that test. And we actually then taught them to go ahead and handwrite it, not just go on the computer and start typing it. We wanted them to actually go ahead and write it. It was probably the longest test taking day that we've always ever had, was the writing, but they did very well. And our scores definitely showed that in the writing area, because we had focused so much on the writing portion of it. And then same holds true when they were actually reading passages. We taught our scholars how to annotate, how to take notes, what is actually being said. Don't just read the passage and go and jump over into the questions. Perhaps maybe you need to look at the questions first if you can, then read the passage so you can already take notes what it is that you're looking for and reread.
Oh, Ms. Park, I've asked you to get with Ms. Olson, and I'd like to integrate a lot of that. And is it what you say, I've had a lot of tests that I've had to pass, and those exact skills, what you're talking about, outlining, annotating, preparing before you answer the questions, those, every single course you prep for, when you prep for the bar, there is an expensive course that teaches you those things. So if we can integrate those strategies in this district, that 10%, that 25% is going to come. So I thank you for bringing this up, and please work
You're welcome.
across the district with Ms. Olson and Dr. Stone to help integrate some of these things, because those are fantastic skills to help our students forward.
And it gives us the opportunity to kind of go off what Matt said, to identify our students who really do struggle. They have the knowledge of the curriculum, they know the answers, but they struggle in the test taking, and to really help them overcome the fear and to be able to achieve in that. So thank you.
You're welcome.
And the mimic test that they take, does that replicate the same test taking environment? Like if it's on a computer, the mimic test is also taken on a computer, or are they formatted differently?
I haven't actually yet seen the mimic test. Is it? Okay. So anyway, I've only been watching the Dibbles. Maybe that's the same thing. I don't know. Just like Rod had said, I am learning a lot of platforms and a lot of curriculum at the moment. So there's been a lot of information overload in the last 2 months. So.
And I know you're new. It's going to be and I know you're new to the district. Welcome.
Thank you.
And we're excited to have you. Based on your short time with us at Oro Grande, how do you feel this board can invest into your school site to improve student achievement?
Well, I certainly echo what all of the other previous principals had said with the field trips and investing in our teachers. I think that we definitely need to continue to recruit to grow our own, because this was the exact same thing that I did at my previous districts. When you start to count how many actually graduated from your local high schools, went off to college and came back, these are the people that are invested in our community. They're rooted in their community, and they're not going to go ahead and be here for 2 years and we're the training ground, and they go off somewhere else to go ahead and teach because it's better pay, whatever it may actually be. So that is one. The other thing that I know that a lot of my teachers have asked about is just to be able to have some professional developments, conferences, whatever it may be, to go ahead and work on the differentiated instruction. We have a wide range of scholars. We have scholars with special needs, scholars that are multiple grades below, to scholars that are those average ones, those ones on the bubble that we would really like to go ahead and see and grow. And how do we go ahead and continue to keep the ones in the classroom that are very getting my work done, they're engaged, but now they're bored. So what do we do there with that? And I think if we could go ahead and invest in some conferences, speakers, trainings, whatever it may be, to go ahead and continue to let those teachers have those opportunities just on differentiated instruction.
Okay. And then I do have one more question because I've heard answers on both sides of this question from our principals in our elementary schools. Is what is your personal opinion and your experience with Accelerated Reader?
With Accelerated Reader as a curriculum, or?
Yes, just as a tool to use.
Oh, personally, I've had no experience with it, so I would not be the one to answer that.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
All right.
That's all I had.
I did have one more thing, but it's not actually specific to Oro Grande. It applies to all the schools.
I agree with what Mr. Houston said about how test-taking skill is an important skill all by itself. That's kind of separate from the academic things that it's teaching. But one thing I don't want to be overlooked is the fact that we only have 2 years of data for the AASA test, and that's because the test is relatively new. Before that, it was AZ Merit. I think before that, it was STAR. Somebody in this room would know. But anyway, the standardized tests that we require our students to take change every few years. They cycle. And so when we develop programs, I want to make sure that whatever we develop as our strategy to improve scores isn't so specific to the test that's currently being used that it then becomes useless once the test changes, because it will change in the near future. It's cyclical.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you. All right. Thunderbolt Middle School, Miss Barney.
Good evening. We have a lot to celebrate this year at Thunderbolt. You can see that we went up in 3 out of the 4 tested areas in ELA and math, which is exciting. In science, we outperformed the state by 5%. We went up by 9% from last year. That's amazing. In math in 8th grade, we matched the state average, but I think we can all agree that 27% of a state average is pretty low and we need to aim higher. So let's go to our goals. We're under targeted school improvement, just like Havasu, so we are focusing on our special needs population. In order for us to get out of that, they can't just grow. They have to become proficient. So our goal is based on moving students from partially proficient, so they're almost there, up to proficient. That 25% is a lofty goal because to get there, they have to do more than a full year's growth. And these are students that traditionally have not done more than a full year's growth. But we're going to get there. We not only put the percentage, but the number of students to give you an idea. It's just 18 kids. We can do that. That makes it seem manageable. In our action steps, we're focusing in on Tier 1 instruction. When you have 27% proficient, you know that you need to work on Tier 1 first. So we're going to focus on teaching those Arizona State standards and making sure we're hitting them at the appropriate percentage too, because we have the blueprint that tells us you're going to have 15 questions on this standard. Let's make sure we focus on that standard. We have paraprofessionals that are going into the classes that have a moderate number of students with special needs, and they can work with anyone in that room, and the teacher can work with the other kids. So if there's 5 kids over there that are really struggling, either the teacher can pull those kids or the paraprofessional can pull those kids, and there's still another adult to work with the other students, so everybody is learning. These classrooms that have a high number of students with special needs, we're actually able to put a special ed teacher in there so they can co-teach and meet those kids right where they are at that grade level rigor. We do also open learning labs. Learning labs are almost like a study hall. If a student is struggling, they can ask to go there. It doesn't have to be a student with special needs. I anticipate my daughter using it because she likes a quiet space. So if she gets overwhelmed, there's a place she can go that is a little more isolated per the student's request, not per the teacher. This is new this year. We're implementing Tier 2 instruction, which is a targeted intervention for every student on our campus. every teacher on our campus is participating in. I was amazed with our staff when I went to our PE teachers. I'm like, would you rather teach math or English? And they gave me answers, and they're cheerleaders and encouraging and working with students, and nobody complained. And like, I even called Scott. I'm like, Scott, something's wrong. Everybody's excited. So that is an encouraging thing. We did a challenge in our homeroom last Friday, and I heard kids coming down the stairs. That was fun. I heard a math teacher being like, we didn't win, but I taught 5 kids integers today. So she was pretty excited too. That's going to catch most of our kids, but we still have the kids that need even more help. So for those kids, we have the specialized classroom. We have alternative ELA and alternative math. That's considered a general education class. It's not taught by a special education teacher. You do not need an IEP or a 504 plan to be in it, but it's taught at a lower level, slower level, but it's still the grade level standards. The students that are in the alternative ELA are using a different curriculum. They also have an ELA class, so they're still getting the Amplify curriculum, so they get it twice. Then we have Resource. Resource is even slower. They're using our big ideas. They're using our Amplify, but they're not necessarily going as deep. Instead of a 3-step equation, we're starting with a 1-step, and we're going to build to that. Instead of decimals and fractions with it, we might start with whole numbers, but we'll get there. We are so lucky this year to have a new dean of students. We brought Carol, Rio Grande. She's been amazing. She's working with teachers to understand the data and to help identify what interventions work and when it's time to try a different one. We're also participating in Project Momentum, which is to help us get out of that targeted school improvement and move forward. And we got into an ADE training, sparking creativity with problem solving to help with our math. Since our math scores were the lowest, that's where we chose to spend our time. Do you guys have any questions?
How many additional special needs teachers do you know?
Great question. At least one.
And Ms. Barney, where do you feel this board can invest into Thunderbolt?
I had the privilege of going 7th, so I made a list.
I love it.
We're really blessed right now that our enrollment is up, but that means our class sizes are up too. So we have some classes, some English classes sitting at 33, 34 kids, which is a lot. We have amazing paraprofessionals. If we could have another one, that would be even better. Substitutes, I know the board increased substitute pay, but we're still covering in-house. It'd be nice if we could reach out to our friends that have retired and encourage them to come on over. I am working with Marcia Becker on a CTE exploratory option where our kids would get to experience more than one exploratory that would help them choose their CTE pathway when they get to high school. So they might be able to experience 3 to 6 in a year instead of just 1. That's it for now.
I have one more question, and this, because this would end up falling under CT eventually. And the community's not aware of this. We had a conversation with Home Depot, and there is some opportunities at Thunderbolt for them to improve our home ec room and us offer home ec again as a class at Thunderbolt, and then also our wood shop. And have we heard any updates from them at this time?
We're still waiting.
Okay. So we can follow up with them. Okay. Awesome. All right. Any other questions? Thank you. And least but not last, Lake Havasu High School, Mr. Becker.
Good job, Amy. And like you said, sorry to Rio Grande. Sorry, Thunderbolt. She's coming back. As you can see, that was fantastic, and she did a great job. So, Mr. Rose, other members of the board, Dr. Stone over there on the computer, these are our scores, and when you look at them, and I know they're hard to see up there, there's more things that you look up at there than scores. I've presented this to our staff. We're lucky enough ACT returns their scores pretty quick because it's a computer-based test. We had these scores by the end of last school year, while all the other schools had to sit around and wait for theirs. But when I look up there, yes, we have improved scores each of the years. If you look at the high school where it's green all the way across, and if you go down to 2021, you can see that progression. Retention has been said many times in this room. Teachers matter. Curriculum also matters. If you go back, that's about when we started implementing our English and our math curriculum. Shortly after that, it was social studies, Spanish, and so on. So curriculum and the teachers teaching it matter. And so we had very little turnover in staff from year to year. I think out of those 25 that Carol talked about, I think 4 of them were ours. We inherited 2 others, so we did have 6, but those 2 others coming to us had extensive experience. We stole one from Thunderbolt and came to the high school, so teachers matter in that classroom. To further that point and just nail it home, if you look at the bottom, that's Havasu Online. Kids in front of teachers matter. So that is an issue. We've changed some things with Havasu Online this year to try to address that. It will take time to address that. It won't happen overnight. Looking at our science, so I taxed our 3 tested areas, science, math, and ELA, to go back to their groups to develop a plan of what they wanted to attack. And with our science, if you could skip to the next one. Their focus is the ACT Science mean score for in-person LHHS students will be at least 19.8 as measured by the 2020 spring state contract. If you look back at the other slide, and you don't have to go backwards, I can tell you, because I know you're talking lofty goals, that is a 0.7 raising that score. When you're talking ACT, is a totally different test than what we're talking about previously. The other thing that is different for us is we have one shot at this. We don't get these students, they're sitting right here. They're seniors right now, so thank you for raising your test scores. And making us look good. But they're seniors now. We are very dependent on what's happening in the classroom, and we are very dependent on our mimic scores. Somebody asked, and I don't remember which board member it was, I think it was Lisa that asked, do the mimics mimic what this test looks like? At the high school, no. And I say no in the sense they ask the correct questions. They are a great predictor to what the overall score will be, but it's the first time a student sits down and takes a 6+ hour test. Test fatigue is a thing, especially if they've never experienced it. So that does come into play. So when you look at a 0.7 increase, you may say, well, that's not very lofty. I think it is. And I did challenge my people. They came back a little lower. I said, nope, let's do this. And it's similar to the math goal that you will see. The science department, if you go back, I don't have them memorized. The action steps that they came up with, the PLC meetings and looking at data, utilizing practice questions during bell work, and you'll hear me talk about it later. Nobody ACT is like the ACT. I don't care who you are, you can't make up those questions. And then analyzing the ACT mimic data and setting goals with kids starting their freshman year until they take the test their junior year. All right, now you can go on. This is the reading category for ELA, and they have targeted the key ideas and details and the readiness. So if you can skip to the next one. Students will maintain, theirs looks a little different, but it still has the same outcome on the overall score. Students will maintain or increase percent net in the reporting category, key ideas and details by at least 10%, which I think I've heard earlier tonight, as measured by the 2026 spring state ACT scores. When teaching the state standards, they're going to look at the identified goal. Teachers will review test scores during PLC meetings to address identified needs. That means when they give a student a test in our curriculum, they're looking at those tests and where did our kids not perform to that level during our curriculum on our everyday teaching. and then looking at that, and do we need to reteach this? Or wait a minute, how did Mr. Zampona's class score better than me, and I'm teaching the same level kids? How did you teach that lesson, and where can I improve my craft? All right, moving on. The next one is our math department. Our math department took it upon themselves. They're numbers people. They set goals last year. They love this stuff. So they set a goal last year, and it was preparing for higher math rating. Or no, it was now I'm going to forget which one it was. No matter which one it was, they raised that goal by 7% in that area. So they targeted that. One of the areas when you do that, and you're looking at a state or the ACT or a state test, you're looking at what does that blueprint look like? So how many questions are attached to each one of these categories, and where do you turn your focus? Because that is what's going to raise a test score. Statistics and probability, if you look at that, it's one of our lower areas. It's at 22%. For that past year, it dropped, in my quick math there is 11%. And that dropped. They moved the statistics because there's only 2 to 3 questions till after the ACT. And they did that purposely, which directed towards their goal, which they definitely met previously. So going on to the next slide. The composite math score will be at least 19.5. I did say earlier you're going to see a similar thing. It is 0.7, which matches the science goal, but it is 19.5 in the math area as measured by the 2026 spring ACT score. Algebra 1-2 levels will focus on formative assessments utilizing IXL, and that is a program where students are able to get practice. It ties directly to our curriculum. I sat in a teacher's classroom that used it beautifully last year with our lower level kids, and only our lower level kids had access to it. The teacher can teach the first part of the lesson, the first, and kind of chunk their lesson. Go to the back of the classroom and say, now it's your turn to practice. They can stand at the back of the classroom and see the computer screen on the perimeter turn different colors. That identifies that red kid right there. I need to go meet with them as a teacher. The green ones, they've got it. And once the whole class gets to 80%, we move on. And it was fantastic to see. I sat there at the back of the classroom texting. Yes, I was on my phone. To our student achievement director. There's a reason for it. So be patient. To our student achievement director, and said, all of our Algebra 1-2 kids need to have this in front of them so our teachers can effectively assess who needs the most help, especially coming into high school, where it's a big jump from middle school to high school, and homework is a thing. And going home, whether they do that homework at home now, these kids are still being exposed to the practice in class and being addressed for the ones that need the needs or meet the needs. Upper grade levels will utilize Minimath to spiral the identified standards. So they're looking at the standards that are the lowest, and they practice those in the first 5 minutes of class, and it's spiraled throughout. Math teachers will participate in a PD session on statistics. So Carrie Thompson teaches, she's our department chair. She teaches stats, our dual enrollment stats class. So she will be teaching that to the entire department and teaching lessons that they can address with their students. Adjust the Algebra 3-4 pacing guide to ensure that statistics standards are taught before the state testing. Though it is a minimal number of questions, those are questions that kids have a shot at getting correct. Go for it. Questions?
Yeah, I'll start in on you. Thank you very much. A lot of great stuff in there. You said the mimic does not match the test. Have you considered implementing a mock test day?
We have, but when we take the ACT, it's on and I'll touch on this again, because Lisa mentioned a changing test. 2 days ago. We got an email. ACT is changing this year. So we have a lot of work to do with that and testing format and what that looks like. So one of the big changes is that this year, and this is new information, it's about a day old for me, so I may misspeak here. Before we tested on an early release day, our kids that are not juniors, they left at 12:25, just like an early release day. Our juniors, they got to stay with us till about 1:30. Our kids that have extended time, they were with us till 3 on those days. The new way that they're allowing us to take the test, we can test math, ELA, and reading, and that's it on that day. You're looking at a 3-hour test now versus a 6.5-hour test. Then on the following day, we just have to do it in the window. We can test science and the writing part. So I think that's going to be a huge adjustment. So looking at setting up a day, it does affect an entire school when you do that. So we would, and to be able to mimic that for our kids, we utilize, oh gosh, Ms. Ainsworth, how many teachers do we test? We test with 26 teachers, I believe last year is what we did. So you're removing 26 teachers from class to test, to create that test environment.
Yeah.
And so is that the biggest bang for your buck? In my opinion, it's not.
Okay. It sounds like is there a test taking strategy courses?
I did forget to mention this. So each of these areas, I am also sending my department chair from math, my department chair from science, and my department chair from English, and then Miss Ainsworth, who is our department chair for counseling. They are going on December 9th to a ACT conference down in Phoenix. I was lucky enough to attend that years ago. Our teachers do teach test-taking strategies, but I do believe that it needs to be reviewed. When Colin Miller stood up here with the perfect ACT score, I knew what he did. He used one of those test-taking strategies. I prodded him to tell what that was last year, and I don't know if he missed the mark. I don't know if he's still in here. So ACT, the test answers are evenly distributed. So there are, out of 50 questions, there's X amount of A answers, X amount of B. He kept tally marks on the side of his test. Went back and said, I haven't too many C answers. Reviewed the C answers to see if he can make corrections. So there are ways to do that.
With proper test taking strategies, you beat the game of these tests because there's a certain level of gaming that every test does, every standardized test does. That is a test taking strategy.
So that is one of the topics because I can see what the breakout sessions are. So that's why I'm sending that group to that, which I'm going to jump your question here now. Go ahead. So one of the things, yes, a lot of things are important. I think the teacher in the classroom is one of the most important things on creating better test scores. Retention is obviously one of them. We took a huge step in providing pay for that recently. I think to continue to do that, to minimize the turnover, not just at the high school, but K through 12. I think doing that for administration is important as well. But I think the key piece to retention is not only money, but when people have a sense of community, that's where people stay. Being able to send teachers, groups of teachers, not the select few, to trainings in the Phoenix area, because those are readily available to all the Phoenix schools, and being able to send groups of people. They not only go to that training and bring back valuable things to implement in their classroom, and I'm not a believer in just going to a PD and let's throw spaghetti at a wall and see what sticks. It has to be intentional.
Yes.
Yeah. But sending them there, they go to that training, they go out to lunch together, they go out to dinner together, and they build that family sense within their departments. And that's a huge part of retention.
What was that program, the practice program where the teacher chunked it and then went to the batteries?
So that's the IXL program.
IXL.
So we have that in our Algebra 1-2 classes this year. I've put the pressure on Algebra 1-2. You better show me results because I want in all our classrooms.
Well,
and it costs money.
And I would echo that, and I would advocate to give that money. Every course in college that was a difficult course, the teacher just stood up there and lectured at us. Every course that felt like I succeeded or thrived, the teacher lectured and then gave us problems, worked those problems with us, gave us how to work, how to think through it. So seeing that IXL, that's how I learned. And so I would love, Ms. Olson, to expand that, not just to the high school, but across the board, because I firmly believe practice problems, being shown how to work through processes, whether it's English language arts, how to read, how to think, to math and statistics, that is the worst of that. But that is fantastic. So I encourage you, whenever you need, there's funds for that, bring it to us. I am a firm believer in the practice in course in front of teachers. So I commend that. Thank you for bringing that forward.
And you know, and this may be a question for Ms. Olson, does each of our schools have their own budget for professional development? Okay. So that's something that this board, I would encourage this board needs to look into, to investing in each school for professional development for programming. So.
And on the topic of IXL, I know Mrs. Olson will notice if I am incorrect, but I think IXL is already implemented in our elementary schools because it does go along with Amplify, and so they can use it to make sure that the students are reviewing materials that go along with the standards. Do I have that correct?
That's correct, and it's also for at the middle school.
And then I have one more question, Mr. Becker.
Oh, I have
Havasu Online.
I have more statements too. I have more statements too.
Havasu Online.
Yes.
What do you recommend this board do to?
I think the more that we can educate our parents, it's a matter of time for me to be able to put together something to share with parents, and I can send out everything in the world. Yeah, I've had conversations with our new communications individual, Jason, and we do have some plans of putting out some publications that our community can read based off of what the high school does. And I'm sorry if there's realtors in the room, but I think in front of the shopping cart showing the effects on the attendance if you miss 0 to 5 days, if you miss 6 to 10, if you miss this, and compare and contrast how many classes are failed amongst those students, what their average test scores are, and so on. Put that on the front of the grocery cart instead of the realtors.
Yeah, that's great.
Another comment, there was school bus comments. Mr. Zampona doesn't have a choice. He's got to send kids to Phoenix. We belong to the AIA. It isn't that Mr. Zampona is hogging the buses. It is, we have a shortage. We have a shortage of bus drivers. It's not just Lake Havasu City.
Yeah.
That is across the state.
Yeah.
You can drive by Hamilton High School and there's a bus parked on the corner with a banner on it. But what I think we can do in terms of field trips, because we can move kids locally, we have extremely brilliant kids at the high school, as you saw. One of my math teachers said, and I didn't do the math, so I can't take credit for this. I'm not a math person. When you looked at, and not all of them showed up, those kids that scored in the 99th and 100th percentile, that was 4% of last year's graduating class, roughly. So if you're looking at 99th percentile or 100th percentile, that's 1%. That's 4 times what the national average is at our school. So I'm extremely proud of those kids. And when you look at math can say a lot of things in different ways. So one of the things that we can do with busing, and we have smart kids, and I think, and I've had this conversation with many, our kids get more out of it than the elementary kids do. I think we need to put our kids in front of our theater class. They produce 3 shows a year. One of them maybe is more high school aged, and we wouldn't expose them to that. But having them come to the theater and say, look at what that is. I remember visiting my high school. I was not a theater person. I'm with you, Miss Hammer. I'm not singing and dancing. I'm not doing that. But I remember sitting there as an elementary kid that got on a bus, and I did not ride a bus to school. I walked. Sitting there going, this is my high school. This is cool. And it gives our younger kids something to look forward to. Yeah. Mr. Olson works hard and takes our higher level math kids to the elementary schools or the middle school, I should say. And our kids can provide some of those field trips that are local rather than.
Well, let's get a plan. I'd love to see a plan together. If I was a theater kid, I did, Midsummer's Night Dream, Guys and Dolls, and all. So I would love to see that. If you get a plan together, sell it to us, and I'd love to support that. Get the students engaged throughout the school system. Older kids encouraging and showing the younger kids this is what it means to be a high school. This is what you can do. Strive. So I think that's fantastic. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Becker. Thank you.
It's not really a question. I wanted to throw my own 2 cents in about Havasu Online because those numbers are very concerning.
Yes.
I think the overall principle is that when it comes to education, you get what you're willing to put into it, and that's true in person, and it seems to be especially true online. Our online program does serve a lot of students who use that program out of necessity. Maybe they are the person who is holding down a job that pays the rent, or maybe they are the person who's caring for younger siblings, or maybe it's a teenager who is pregnant and it makes sense for them to take classes online so that they don't have to drop out. So the online program does fill a vital need for our community. But I do see it being utilized by people who don't really need to use it. It's more that their students would rather sleep in and sort of take their classes on their own clock and not necessarily take their education very seriously. And I don't think that we can really do anything to prevent that because that is a family's choice. But I do think it's important to make that clear that if a student is using the online program as kind of the easy way out, that is a choice that they're making, and it is a choice that their parents are allowing them to make. And so if your child graduates from high school and you think, well, their diploma doesn't really indicate that they got a very good education, you have to look back at the choices that you've made as a parent and also think, how did that contribute? Did I allow my child to do something that wasn't really the best for them? So that's my opinion.
And I do have a question in regards to Havasu Online. Do we currently have guidelines that if a student is, for example, at a C level or below, that they have to be in person? Is there any current guidelines set for Havasu Online?
So and I won't use the words that I've used with behind closed doors about how Havasu Online came about. When COVID started, we had less than a week to figure it out.
Right.
And it was a cleaned up version of, oh crap, we have to do something.
Right.
Then it turned into, okay, we have groups of people that are willing to come back to school, groups of people that aren't. That's their own choice. Then we morphed into, gosh, we have this tool and we tried to do everything. And when you try to do everything, you can't be great at anything.
Yeah.
So we've really pulled back. One of the things we're not real popular with right now is we were allowing kids to take courses a la carte, which meant you could take 4 classes online, but you really like these 2 classes on campus. And we did that based off of a student's feedback. She was online. She's like, I cannot teach myself math. And no, you probably can't online. So she only wanted to come back for math, but wanted to do the rest online. So we're like, all right, let's pivot and try to do everything. And we did that. And that was not a good move because other kids were picking other things for other reasons, not based off of what I felt like this girl made a smart decision to do. So we pulled that back, and you can only take the classes on campus that are not offered on Havasu Online. So that has minimized the number of kids coming on and off campus. It created a lot of attendance issues for on campus as well. So we pulled that back. They were putting, I mean, I can go on for a while about Havasu Online. So it's not bedtime yet. Yes. But to answer your question, yes, we are putting in place Havasu Online. So the 3 things where we had to do, now the mindset is Havasu Online is a privilege. Public school, you get. There's no yes or no. It's yes, we're a public school. We accept you. Our public school is Lake Havasu High School. The privilege is if you want to go that route, you can go that route, but you have to produce or you're coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. That might be worth a work session, and dealing with people and their principals and teachers to set kind of maybe a standard or principle that we can apply and kind of get this more uniform on what we expect for that online.
Another big change is we have kids jumping back and forth.
Yeah.
If a big project was coming up in class, I'm out.
Yep.
And I'm back in 2 weeks because now that project's over.
So you're saying that's implemented now, that Havasu Online is a privilege, and
yes,
that's
so
place.
So after tomorrow's the last day. If you don't want to be online or you're going online, tomorrow's it. And the next time that you have that opportunity is fall break. The next time you have that opportunity is Christmas. And then the last time you have that opportunity is spring break.
All right.
Okay.
So we've made changes. We will see what the effect is on that, but it will take time.
Absolutely. And maybe just as those go forward, and you see, just give us kind of a update on it as we go.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
All right. All right, item 6.1, Superintendent. Dr. Stone, good evening.
President Rose, Vice President Houston, members of the board. The legislative session has ended, so we are updating our policies as required, the laws that were either amended or changed. Everything that you're going to hear tonight is due to an actual law change, so these aren't things that we are able to change in any way. But this is the first reading. We will have the opportunity to review these again in September for approval. The full body of our policy is attached to our agenda. Anything that is redlined is something that is coming out, and anything that is in bold is something that's being added. So I will go over them, not massively in depth, but briefly to give everyone an idea of what the change is. So our first policy is Board Act 204, mandatory recording. The law now clarifies that governing board members and substitute teachers are mandatory reporters. It also specifies that reporting to a school resource officer or school safety officer is insufficient. Mandatory reports must be made directly to law enforcement or the Department of Child Safety, depending on what the concern is. And any child abuse investigations must occur pursuant to county protocol. When you look at the actual policy, it clearly explains what mandatory reporting is. It adds the fact that board members and substitute teachers are also required to report. It clarifies what reportable offenses are, and that we're reporting directly to law enforcement with jurisdictions or to the Department of Child Safety, depending on what the concern actually is. If it's a criminal issue, we would be reporting directly to law enforcement. Otherwise, you're reporting directly to child safety. We will have training that gives a little more clarification for our staff. I believe now that board members are listed, we also need to give that training to board members. So we will need to find the time to do so.
All right.
Let's see. Any questions on that one?
Any questions? Let me.
Policy 1-401 is Parents and Legal Guardians' Rights in Education, and also Policy 5-303, which is our student records. These are amended to clarify parents receive the policy that we're going to be reviewing tonight. And it also changes how districts may disclose directory information about students. So it requires both more specific notification of the right to opt out for parents and requiring consent in writing prior to the disclosure of a student's address, telephone number, or email address, unless a specific instruction applies, as noted in Policy 5-303. This law also permitted parents and legal guardians to request the health care credentials for employees or individuals who provide health services to students. Parents and legal guardians may also request information regarding a school employee's emergency response training. So those things are listed clearly in the policy that we went through. 1401 is clearly about requesting those healthcare credentials or emergency response training. 5303 is our student records, and that's where federal and law and state law permit us to disclose directory information. However, we have to provide notice and an opportunity for parents to opt out, which we typically do at the beginning of each year. It defines directory information, and then also clarifies that we now are held to a little bit higher standard. If we want to disclose this information, we need to share with parents what's the time frame for them to opt out, but we also need affirmative written consent from the parent or legal guardian or eligible student if we want to get that information out. So this gets a little more by way of parental rights. Policy 1-302 is governing board meetings and open meeting law. The situation here is that there is an open meeting law exemption for communication between a forum of a 3-member advisory committee if not more than one member of the committee is a governing board. So you have the right to establish advisory boards. If you chose to establish an advisory board and it was a 3-member board and one of you as board member was designated to be a part of that advisory committee, you and one of the members of that committee could communicate as a quorum. That would not trigger open meeting law. So you would be able to have that discussion without notifying the public, putting the meeting minutes out, and all of those types of things. Policy 4-101 is the board authority to employ. This clarifies that we had in our policy that the board shall not issue contracts of employment to certified teachers prior to March 15th. What they are clarifying is they meant that to be for probationary, continuing teachers who are employed by the district. So obviously, if we have new teachers that we're hiring, we could offer them a contract prior to March 15th. For our teachers that are currently employed, we cannot offer those contracts until after March 15th. Policy 5-201 is patriotic exercises and observance days. This clarifies the requirements regarding instructions pertaining to terrorist attacks of September 11th. They chose a new title because it was written as Flag Displayed U.S. Constitution and Bill of Rights, Homeland Climate, Declaration of Independence. They just chose to put it all into patriotic exercise and observance days. And they also added specifically in the policy the 9/11 Education Day and the Santa Day upon our Civic Celebration Day. Those were already in law, but now they are just clarified in the policy as well. Policy 5-203 is Students with Disabilities on Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. This now amends the law to require school districts to state in an individualized education plan whether a student with a specific learning disability has been diagnosed with dyslexia. And we actually have to state either way. Either the student does have dyslexia in addition to their specific learning disability, or they do not. The State Board of Education also adopted revisions to the Administrative Code, which now requires school districts to publish evaluation procedures for the evaluation of special education eligibility on our website. And we also need to address the timing of communication regarding the evaluation process. So we would share with parents if we were requesting their permission to evaluate their student, what is the time frame that would happen in, and when we would communicate the results to them. If a parent is requesting an evaluation, there's an additional timeline that we also need to publish as to when we would get back to them with a decision on whether or not we would evaluate, and then all of the other timelines would be in place. But all of those would be clearly posted on our website after the adoption of this policy. Policy 5-401 is a police interview notification. This clarifies that school districts must immediately notify parents, legal guardians, and or custodians if law enforcement takes a juvenile into temporary custody. But we must first confirm with the police officer that the notification does not pose a risk to the students or to the investigation. So that is clearly in the policy at this time. The second is 5402, Department of Child Safety Interview and Custody. This clarifies that a DCS caseworker may be required to present their official DCS identification upon a school visit and a valid driver's license. This is really just for the safety of ensuring those who are asking for access to our students actually are who they say they are. And it also clarifies that we may not keep digital or physical copies of the personal information of the DCS caseworker. Policy 5404 is the administration of medication. It amends multiple statutes to reflect a revised definition of an epinephrine delivery system. So no longer have just auto injectors. There is now a nasal spray that is epinephrine, so they have removed auto injector pen, and it is just an epinephrine delivery system, whatever it is the doctor has prescribed for that student. Policy 5-216.01 is new, and this relates to assessments. So this revised the law regarding testing prescribed by the State Board of Education. High school students may now submit scores from nationally recognized assessments and opt out of State Board prescribed testing. What we do not know at this point is what are the nationally recognized assessments that they are accepting, and how does this pertain to state report cards? Because all of the data that you just received for our iceberg is based on the ACT. Well, now we have new tests developing, and we're not sure how that is going to be tied to state report cards. So we will keep you posted as the State Board of Education catches on to this change of the law. And our last policy this evening is 5-410, which is interscholastic athletics. Effective August 1st, 2026, districts that provide athletic instruction in grades 9 to 12 and that sponsor athletic teams and sports programs will be required to have automated external defibrillators on each campus and at each event, including all practices, trainings, and competitions. I believe Dustin is in the audience, and I am pretty sure we are already meeting that requirement, so that's a positive. And then I just wanted to note that all related procedures, many of our policies do have procedures that go with them. All of the related procedures will be updated according to adopted policies, where you kind of receive when these receive formal approval next month. At this time, if you don't have any questions, we do just need an approval of the first reading, and we'll move them on to September.
Move to approve first reading and move to second reading. Second.
Wait, did you say you want to waive the second reading?
No, move.
Okay.
Yeah, second reading.
Okay. Then I'll second the motion. Or did you already? I'm sorry.
You can have it. It's getting late.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Item 6.2, business services. Good evening.
Good morning, President Rhodes, members of the governing board, Dr. Sun, and everyone in attendance. This is a 2026 budget amendment. That's the current school year. And this is to comply with the legislative additional funds that were granted before or after the actual preliminary forms were issued. So this was the very strict update. It's about another $3 million in M&O because the base level increased by $100 per student. And I was able to more accurately predict the carryover amounts for M&O and capital. So there's about a $400,000 difference for capital, which is an increase. And so that's pretty much, this is a standard, something that we had to do before September 15th, and it made sense to do it now to make sure that we submit the information to the state in a timely manner. And I also want to reiterate that the schools won the school finance lawsuit. I know that was mentioned prior to this agenda item. The courts made their final ruling on August 11th, so that is great news. And I will be attending some in-person conferences with the attorney that litigated that lawsuit, so I can find out more details and share them with Dr. Stone and the team once that information is available.
All right. Any questions for Ms. Farr? All right. Thank you so much. All right. Item 7.1, Superintendent. Oh, we need a motion to adopt.
I'll move to approve 6.2.
I second.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. All right, now item 7.1, Superintendent Dr. Stone. Good evening again.
Good evening again. I would just like to congratulate all of our students that were honored tonight. I mean, that was amazing. And we are looking forward to Mrs. Olson being able to read many of our names next year as we improve all our student achievement. I want to thank Mrs. Olson and the student achievement team. They really did a lot of work to get all of our data presented to staff and help them as they develop their goals this year. And of course, thank all of our principals as they worked to get their presentations running and as they work with their staffs and implement all of these action steps and goals moving forward.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Stone. Any questions for Superintendent? All right. At this time, governing board members, 7.2. I would want to give an update on the status of our ASU property. The governing board has entered into negotiations with a potential tenant. At this time, we will not be naming that potential tenant, but just know that we are in negotiations at this time.
First off, I just want to thank all the principals, everybody who's here. Thank you for your presentations. Thank you for taking the time to look at where you can improve your schools. What I think this board is here, and what I know I'm here for, is to increase our proficiencies so that when we send those high schoolers off into this world, they are ready to tackle whatever is in front of them. So thank you for doing that. I like those lofty goals, 25%, but I know a realistic goal is probably 10%. So Ms. Olson, I'd like to see at a minimum 10% across the board, and all principals. You know, Ms. Olson is our student achievement director. She's the point of contact for all of this. Your needs, your burdens. Sorry, Ms. Olson, but that's you.
And approval.
And approval. We want to make a standard of excellence across the board. Things that are working in one school, we want to implement them across the board. Let's improve this district. I know we can do it. Just a few things we had a lot today. So I would be interested in teacher set hours for tutoring. I know they're not going to like that, but so at the county attorney's office, once a week, every attorney has to go sit in a courtroom and cover court. If at each school a teacher does, 1 day a month, 1 day, whatever it is, they do 1 extra hour, they man the study hall and give that little bit of extra tutoring. I'd like to maybe workshop that a little bit. I know our SPED director, Miss Newell, she's doing fantastic, but I'd like a request, a review of just maybe an action plan on that Jamaica issue that she was brought. Let's get our eyes on it and see what's going on. The class rankings, I know we talked about this, Dr. Stone. I'd like to have those available, as a recon room, as a CO. It pays to be a winner. It pays to be excellent, and we should be rewarding that. We obviously want to improve everyone, but if you are excelling, we need to reward you. So I would like to make sure that we have those class rankings available for them, that we're promoting those students and saying, hey, get this to your college. You're excellent. Let's get you in somewhere. Test taking strategies, I know I hit on. I'd like to see monthly reviews, Ms. Olson, of what we're doing, how these action points that we discussed today are actually being implemented. And Dr. Stone and Ms. Olson, if things are not moving, what are the corrective actions that we're going to maybe get a little kick in the butt to get them going? Because we want to improve these. We don't want to sit. We don't want stagnation. Test taking strategies, and then I would like to look at the field trips. How can we get these kids out doing more? Do we need to hire an extra permanent bus? Do we need to make a little bit bump in the salary for bus drivers to recruit them? What does that look like? Does it look like taking the elementary kid to the high school, taking those high school kids on some better trips? I'd like, an action plan, maybe a work session to see what we can do with those things. Those are the notes I took. So thank you, everybody, your input. Thank you, principals. We're here to support you. Please bring your ideas to us. We do have some carryover funds that we need to look into spending, whether that's securing the pay raise that we just did and allotting those for future to continue to pay, because obviously our teachers are the boots on the deck. They are the ones on the front line. One thing I did have with that, as a recon arena, When you get to a battalion, there are mandatory courses that you need to take before you are complete. Sniper, dive, jump, seer school, demolition. Like there's a list of things you need to do before you're complete. Now, I don't know if we want to come up with a list of conferences that hit those strategic skills. So when you're a new teacher, hey, this year you're going to, language arts conference, you're going to math conference, whatever it is. Can we get some conferences that we can send teachers to that grow those skills, grow those personal developments and relationships to build this community? Yeah, those are it. Thank you.
You mentioned like conferences and stuff. There's a few people who do whatever that aren't, but you realize it for.
Yeah, no, we want to continue pouring into our team.
You mentioned the tutoring. Did we send out like a list to get like the new updated to where teachers who wanted to tutor, it's already on that list by chance?
That's awesome.
Is it been on it?
We are slow behind mighty tutoring and teachers have one budget now and have one budget that's less than it has been and asked. So actually meeting with signatures next week.
And on some of these budget issues, please be also addressing to us so that when the time comes for a bond and override, that we have the ability to get with people like our councilman here to help us. These are the objectives. These are the actual items that are going to improve our district. This is why you're giving us this money, not just, hey, blank check. We have targeted goals for this money. So we can go out and advocate for the funds.
I like how we asked, what do you need in a way? What's going to make you guys more successful? I want to do that more often. I want to hear from them. I mean, that helps us.
All right. And then there are some things I would like to add to the next agenda. I would like for us to look into a bus safety audit and just see where we are, maintenance, and then the safety of our school buses. Also, Mr. Keller, I would like an update on the school safety audit. I would like to see us have that done in the next couple of months, if possible. If we could have an update from our FBI contact and actually a presentation of a couple of options for the board to choose from. And then we have an opportunity. Hopefully they could be here next month to present. I have been approached by a farm. They are wanting to partner with school districts and offer agriculture. Yeah. And so we are going to be having a conversation with them to see what we can do. We have lots of vacant land in the Lake Havasu Unified School District, and I think it would be amazing to take, for example, our Buena Vista property and turn that into a farm and be able to do a community garden, our students to be able to learn what it's like to plant and to grow. They even talked about the potential for farm animals on, so the opportunity is huge for that. And I'm looking forward to moving forward in that conversation. Also, we have been approached by the founder of Zelle, the banking app. Paul Finch, the founder of Zelle, lives here in Lake Havasu City. And he has approached me. Actually, I had a conversation with him a while back, and he wants to get involved in our school district. And then I've been approached by other people who are successful business owners, or a major producer that lives here in Lake Havasu from Hollywood has also approached me. And these are people that want to help mentor our students. And so, Ms. Olson, I really would love to work with you and sit down with these individuals and create a mentorship program, as well as see how we can get these individuals in our classrooms. To have the founder of Zelle influencing our students is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for the Lake Havasu Unified School District, and we need to take advantage of that. So we definitely want to work on that. You mentioned the class rankings. Mm-hmm. I definitely want to look at reading. So there is definitely various opinions and about what reading programs work, and this board is definitely results driven, but we want students to love to read, to know how to read. Specifically by third grade, as many students that could be proficient in reading, that needs to be happening. And so I would like a presentation on AR and other programs to the board so that we can look at tools I'm not specifically, Ms. Olson, saying make it curriculum, but tools that are available to our schools, and how we can implement those into our classrooms and equip our teachers to make kids love reading. And our reading, as we can see the results, they're low, and we need to do what we can to equip our teachers to be successful in that. So if we could have a presentation of not just AR, but other programs that work, because for me, the results is what matters. So.
As far as the community, what we can do as far as the community outreach to get reading started earlier before the kids enter our school system. I think our schools are doing an outstanding job.
Yeah.
The big issue is that a lot of kids are coming into our schools behind.
Yeah.
And it's a big catch up.
Yeah.
So I don't know what we can look into to get that accomplished. I know that they have the, what is the kindergarten program in California they have that starts out. Yeah. So, I don't know if that's a budget that we can do here.
Yeah, no,
I don't
absolutely.
know. That's something.
But we can even look at a partnership with our public library to see what programs are available through Mojave County Library. And then the last thing for me, this would be you again, Mr. Keller, is recently the Arizona Department of Education, Tom Horn has announced that he is making available funds through the state for school resource officers. And we need to look into that so that every school has a school resource officer, not just a couple of our schools. And currently our SROs are stretched thin because they're responding to schools where there is not one. So if we could have look into a SRO at every school in our district would be amazing. So if we could look at that for the next meeting, that'd be great. That's all I have. Anyone else? All right. If
I move to adjourn.
I'll second.
All right, meeting adjourned. Have a wonderful night. Oh, shoot, that's right. It's late. I'm ready to go. I'm done.
Yes.
Yes.
Let's go.
Yes.
Yes. Now you're adjourned.